Very cool. I'm particularly interested in your business because my wife is like a self-proclaimed hippie, you know, organic hippie. She made us buy a chicken coop, and we're going to be growing an organic farm ourselves. So. Welcome back to Bunker Labs TV. I am Kirby Atwell, CEO of iCandy Homes, which is one of the small businesses and startups that make up this veteran entrepreneurship community that we call the Bunker Labs. I'm super excited today because we have an awesome interview lined up with Colin Archipley of Archi's Acres. As you can see his logo right up here, there's his website down there. I'm really excited to dive right in and hear a little bit more about the business. So welcome, and thanks for joining us.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to just dive in and hear a little bit more. I was reading a little bit last night on your website, and I saw the video. Actually, if you go to Colin's website and you can watch the intro video, it's really awesome. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about your business and what you guys do right now.
Well, at Archi's Acres at its core is a greenhouse farming model. So we grow products, and you can buy our products in Whole Foods and so forth. We're certified organic and all that. So that's at the core of what we do. And then on the outreach side, we have a program in conjunction with Cal Poly Pomona that teaches sustainable agriculture training to transitioning service members, veterans, and members of the general public.
So tell me a little bit, I know you're a Marine, tell me a little bit about your background in the military and how it evolved into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I ended up leaving the Marine Corps as a sergeant, a squad leader in an infantry unit at 3-1, and I did 3 deployments with them and a lot of training cycles and so forth. And so I had a great experience, but I was pretty worn out at the end of it. So, but one of the reasons why I went into the Marine Corps was, you have all that stuff about being a Marine, but I love being outside and being in the environment and so forth. And so before we separated, we kind of got lucky on the housing market. We had a tiny place in Venice Beach I would go into on the weekends or on Liberty or whatever. My wife and I lived up there, and we got really lucky in the market. We were able to buy several acres down here in North County, San Diego, just outside of Camp Pendleton, which is where my home duty station was at the time. It came with avocado trees, and just working with those avocado trees, I kind of fell in love with the experience of agriculture, being outside, and a hobby turned into a business more or less, and really pushed by my wife, who a long entrepreneur, has done several other businesses in her past. So this is kind of my first stab at it, and we joined up and did it together. It's been a lot of fun.
Very cool. Very cool. I was watching on the video, you bought the farm between deployments, right? Between your second and third deployment?
Yeah, that's right. So my wife, Karen, actually basically a few days before leaving CONUS, signed the papers. My wife had to move in here by herself with a moving crew, and came back. So while I was on deployment, I was doing a lot of research about irrigation and so forth, because we had no agricultural background whatsoever. We bought it because of property and location, you know what I mean? And then they had a couple hundred avocado trees on it. So on deployment, started learning about growing crops, water issues, and that really intrigued me because we talk a lot about energy crisis and importing energy and so forth. The drought in California has kind of brought some attention to water. But water, I think, is the next friction point, if you will, globally.
So initially, it was just farming on a little bit smaller scale, and it's kind of grown over time. And then, how did the training component for other veterans? Because that's something else that I just think is cool, that you can incorporate providing jobs and careers for other veterans at the same time, teaching them how to do what you're doing. So how did that play into the process over that time? We wanted to stay connected to the military community. My commitments to the Marine Corps had ended, but my commitments to Marines and service members and my wife's, that will never go away, as I'm sure you can attest to. And so we are in this unique location. We see a ton of opportunity in this space. And I just thought, if we could do this, not having a background in it, not being rich in assets and being cash flow and having a lot of cash on hand, if we could do this, I know there's a lot of other, grunts and the like that can do it at the same and probably better than most. In fact, as you know, veterans have a higher percentage rate of becoming entrepreneurs. Work ethic and all that stuff just mixes really well for the agricultural community specifically as well. And I think there's a lot of vets out there. In fact, 40%, 46% roughly come from rural backgrounds. They don't see much future in them. The rural communities have been hit really hard. We want to give them tools
they could take new technology, new business procedures and so forth back to their home, create well-paying jobs. Every job created on a farm creates nearly 3 elsewhere in the community and so forth. And we just think there's great opportunity in this space.
How do you recommend when you're teaching some of the veterans how to get started in this? What's their first steps?
Well, planning, as I'm sure you're aware, planning, research. With the technology that we've incorporated, we're using, this stuff is something that you can start practicing with on your patio, on your rooftop, or in your garage. So you can start really small. Get some experience with you, and then USDA has some really great programs to help finance and start the businesses. That's the challenge, though. That's the market penetration, and you can say that about all businesses, right? But specifically in agriculture, when you look at the potential cost of land acquisition, whether it's greenhouse space and pumps and all this, or traditional farming equipment, it's very cost intensive up front. That typically is one of the biggest challenges. So yeah, a lot of research. Start small and just play with stuff. Get some success, even if it's just little farmers markets or whatever. And that could be enough to go to some of these USDA programs or private lenders to access the capital required to make those investments. But that is a huge challenge. But yeah, start small. Particularly, the other challenge with agriculture is your time to market when you start up is longer than most other companies, right? Because you have to put all the infrastructure in place, actually produce a crop, and then get it to market. And you can't let that crop or whatever it is sit on a shelf. So all that distribution and logistics got to be in line too. And that's, again, where that research comes in, because you can't lag on that stuff. So it's a dynamic environment. People don't think about farming that way, but it's very dynamic.
Yeah, we talk a lot at the Bunker Labs, actually, with the different companies who are involved about bootstrapping. And so this is like the perfect type of business for that, because you can start small. You can get your feet wet before you jump in and take out a loan or move into a larger scale operation that you can prepare yourself before you do that. So that's what I love about this.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be surprised about the space you have in your again, incorporating technology like we're using, the space you have around town, small plots on rooftops or whatever you can lease for pretty cheap. You incorporate technology like we're using, and you'd be surprised about the revenue a small little piece of land can generate. And being very efficient at it as well, and having a good community impact. I mean, that's the thing that, small farms, especially when you bring them closer to the people, there's just a unique community impact, whether it's, creating more jobs or just being a face of the community, being a member of the community. I think just farmers have a unique impact when they're present.
I noticed on your website, on the video, you guys are in Whole Foods. So I think there's a lot of people who own businesses out there, whether it's retail or agriculture or whatever it is, and they're looking to get into larger retailers, to sell their products. How did that process go for you? What did that look like? How did you get your foot in the door at Whole Foods? Yeah,
well, we grew some stuff. We took it down to the store and we said we want to sell to you. That's literally what we did. We did that from store to store, and that's how I opened up accounts. I think that's probably unique in agricultural, though. I think if you're developing a processed product, most businesses want you to work with a distributor, and that means you need to be finding how are these stores getting their products to market. How are these companies getting their products to market? Because most of them are using distributors.
I want to transition here a little bit and hear a little bit more about your personal beliefs, I guess, or your personal work ethic. How did your role transition over the years? When you first started, obviously, you probably came home and started farming the land yourself. As you've grown the business, obviously, just having a robust internet presence, that's a job in itself. So how is your role as the founder and CEO, transition over the years, and what do you do right now? What's your main focus right now?
Yeah, well, it used to be actually hands-on, actually growing stuff and doing the work. I do less of that now, although I'm trying to transition and get my hands back into that side, because it's just better to understand what's going on that level to make sure you're operating more efficiently. But that's really what I get to do on the weekends. A lot of the stuff is behind desk. Like you said, your internet presence and so forth. We don't have any. You're looking at the IT team right here, me and my wife, right? And as well as accounting. And that's part of it. That's part of the challenge of being a farmer is he or she is a jack of all trades but a master of none. You don't have IT and HR departments. So that's what I spend a lot of my time doing now. where it used to be we were the labor, and that was the most important part at the time.
So what would you do different? You know, if you could start it all over again today, what are some steps that you would recommend to somebody who might be just getting started that you would do that might have grown your business a little bit quicker or saved you some money here or there?
When we first started seeing some success out of the farm, and I think this is common, but you get kind of a bug and you start seeing opportunities everywhere. And you can often get stuck on these trails of chasing these other opportunities as opposed to focusing on the core business. And I've done some of that. And so luckily it didn't drown us, right? And we've been able to survive. But I've focused more on the core business earlier on as opposed to chasing some of these opportunities, as well as everybody's got an opinion about the business and how it should operate as well. And so, you know, focusing more on what we think our core business is and so forth, because we feel the pulse of that business better than anybody else does, and taking opinion or input with a grain of salt. Lastly, when we first started the business, we had an accountant doing most of the legwork on the financial side. I would have got much more involved in that, and right now I do it myself. Like, you know, we could hire a bookkeeper to do the inputs, but cash flow is king, and being dug into the books and entrenched in them, I think, especially at early stage, is critical, because, you know, cash flow is always tight.
A lot of entrepreneurs, I think, go down that same path where they just outsource it, don't worry about it until they have to worry about it. So
yeah, exactly.
I think that's a great point, a great lesson for a lot of people to take away. Any habits or practices that you have or beliefs or even resources like books or anything like that you feel have been helpful to you over the years as you've grown your business and have led to your success in what you're doing?
Yeah, well, again, networking has been a critical part of that. And we're a membership of several different organizations, from the Farm Bureau to B-Lab and so forth, and just networking, because through networking, we're able to bring on people and understand what we don't know and bring those people on to fill those gaps as needed. And so that's a big part of it. And, you know, I read your questions earlier before starting this, and I have to give my military experience quite a bit of credit as well. I mean, I think you can say the things that everybody says, right? You mature a lot, you learn leadership skills and so forth. But one of the things I think helped me quite a bit in regards to being an entrepreneur is being a small unit leader. You kind of have to think about the battle space and imagine how your unit moves within that, and then bringing supporting assets into that as well, and how imagine what's going to occur in a few minutes as you're doing this operation. And being able to forecast as a business, it's a very similar thing. You have to imagine what's going to happen after certain activities occur, where the case may be. And a lot of that I got from you know, being a small unit leader in the Marine Corps and having that, exercising that muscle of being able to take you know, in this case, market factors, and imagine what will play out going forward.
Fantastic advice. I really appreciate all of the insight and the advice that you've given. I think it's going to be very valuable for the whole Bunker Labs community. So I just really appreciate you joining us today. You know, if you're watching this interview and this is the first interview you've seen, you can always go to bunkerinAbox.org, and you can see lots of other interviews just like this. I'm Kirby Atwell. So I can see obviously we got your logo and we got your website up here, but what's the best way to get in contact with you if people want to reach out to you directly? ArchiesAcres.com. Got a link there. You can contact us, or 800-933-9335. Very cool. And you can always get in touch with me at Kirby@iCandyHomes.com. Remember, a year from now, you're going to wish you had started today, so take action.